My name is Brendan Forrest, and this channel will follow the American Civil War as it happened 160 years ago in April of 1861 until its conclusion in April of 1865. This is a bi-weekly special episode where we take a closer look into specific topics and events that require a more in-depth explanation outside of our other episodes. Today we'll be discussing the causes of the war. Ever since the Civil War began, its causes have been argued. Was the cause solely slavery? Was it states' rights? Was it the issue of secession, or was it fought for economic reasons? Was disunion a spur-of-the-moment idea that quickly caught fire? Or were the North and South so fundamentally different from the formation of the Union that they were bound to fight eventually? The short answer to all these questions is yes. Now here's the long answer. This is Civil War. No credible argument can be made saying slavery did not play a major role in the cause of the American Civil War. Clearly written within South Carolina's Declaration of Separation, it is stated, "A geographical line has been drawn across the Union, and all the states north of that line have united in election of a man to the high office of President of the United States, whose opinions and purposes are hostile to slavery. He is to be entrusted with the administration of the common government because he has declared that government cannot endure permanently half slave, half free, and that the public mind must rest in the belief that slavery is in the course of ultimate extinction." Spelled out on their own document comes the admittance that slavery was a primary reason for their separation from the Union. They mention it 18 times in the document. The issue of slavery and the argument over it dates back nearly to its introduction to the continent in 1619. But without going back quite that far, the argument was clearly identified within the founding of the United States itself. Take, for example, the 3/5 Compromise, where a slave was counted as 3/5 of a white citizen for the census and state representation. Clearly, at the conception of the Republic, the issue of slavery was a prime concern. Thomas Jefferson, a slave owner himself, said, "We have the wolf by the ear, and we can neither hold him nor safely let him go. Justice is in one scale and self-preservation in the other." The first major conflict regarding slavery in America would happen when the territory of Missouri applied for statehood in 1818. It was clear from the beginning that Missouri was going to attempt to enter the Union as a slave state. This posed a problem because for the first time, there would have been an uneven number of slave and free states. The fact that this was seen as an issue proves how split Americans were. For nearly 2 years, the discussion of Missouri's admittance was drawn out until Henry Clay, a representative from Kentucky, formulated a plan known to history as the Missouri Compromise. In this compromise, the territory of Missouri was admitted into the Union as a slave state, while the territory of Maine entered as a free state, thus once again balancing the scales of free and slave. Now, what regarding slavery were their major arguments? Why was there such a great concern on either side? The answer is apparent. No one was willing to risk their own personal way of life. Think of it this way. The Southern economy was based on slavery. Without it, their economic system would have collapsed as it did after the Civil War during the Reconstruction period. The opposite could have been said for the North. The Yankee economy was based on free labor. If slavery was allowed to expand into free states, then their economic system would have been threatened. There were abolitionists fighting slavery due to moral servitude, but the majority of Northerners were not against slavery because they were righteous. The majority of Northerners were against slavery to protect their jobs, their families, and their way of life. The issue of slavery again caused conflict politically in 1850, when, after the gold rush of 1849, California attempted to literally rush to statehood. Seeing as very few slave owners rushed to California with their slaves in tow, the state was looking to be admitted as a free state. The issue of California's admittance as a free state was passed through a package compromise which also strengthened the fugitive slave laws to an immense degree. The bolstered laws required all law enforcement persons, even in free states, to assist in the recapturing of runaway slaves. Recaptured slaves were not entitled to a trial by jury, and even free blacks were impressed into slavery through this law. In 1854, the passage of the Kansas-Nebraska Act called for a popular vote of state residents to decide if the new state were to be slave or free. This led to the term Bleeding Kansas, as anti- and pro-slave individuals fought over the Kansas Territory's destiny. But no true evaluation of the Civil War causes can be had without looking into the argument for states' rights. In 1828, a tariff bill, referred to by many Southerners as a tariff of abomination, was passed, increasing rates by as much as 50% on some imported items. This was met with outcry from the South, whose agrarian economy depended on overseas imports and a robust British economy in which to sell their cotton. Due to this, the state of South Carolina passed the Ordinance of Nullification, proclaiming the tariffs as null and void and threatened secession if the federal government were to try and enforce the collection of tariffs within the state. In 1860, almost 95% of the federal government's revenue was collected through tariffs. While the issue of tariffs did not cause a civil war, it almost did cause a war in 1832 and contributed to the development of secessionist constitutional theory. For this reason, it must be included in the discussion of the war's causes. The question of secession is one of those chicken and egg type questions. Would the war have happened if the South had not left? Of course not. But did the war start because the South left? Of course. Would the war have happened if the South had been allowed to leave without contest? No, it would not have. As a result, the issue of secession is absolutely a cause of the war. In fact, the first 2 years of the war were fought with one goal in mind: reunion of the Southern states. Lincoln himself is quoted in August of 1862 as saying, "If I could save the Union without freeing any slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others, I would also do that." Granted, his ideas will change dramatically leading up to the famous Emancipation Proclamation in January of 1863, officially adding the abolition of slavery to the list of war goals. What caused the Civil War? As I stated earlier, the system of chattel slavery was mentioned 18 times in South Carolina's Declaration of Separation from the United States. Slavery was the root cause of the American Civil War, but it would be a disservice to history to stop there. A more complete cause of the war could be stated thusly: the Southern states seceded to preserve their constitutional right to maintain an agricultural slave labor system. Politics, economics, and war are complex today, and they were complex yesterday. See you next time.